Hello, it's Janine Turner, and welcome to Janine Turner's God on the Go. Okay, well, let's check in. Let's do a little pulse point here. The last two God on the Go's that I recorded, one was communicating spirit to spirit, not ego to ego. And this was something that I was placed upon my heart when I was reading the Bible and in prayer group, and I thought, yes, you communicate spirit to spirit. And I gave the example of the woman at Brahms at the little grocery store, and how much she touched me. So I was ready to go, And then the second one was anguish recognized, not abandoned, and that had some more story of my stories in it. They all do, but anguish, to recognize each other's anguish and to not abandon. And so, as sure as we have a good idea, we will realize, or shall I say as soon as I have a good idea, I will realize that I will be put to the test. And what I will learn through that test are two things. One is any of these beautiful analogies and or missions and goals of God's glory and magnificence and revelation, I can't accomplish them without God. And so when I step out of the say balance beam, because I want to talk about a balance beam today, when I go off, I can't communicate spirit to spirit. I can't I go back to ego. And so then I want to, I correlate it this morning with, and the Bible verse today is just absolutely perfect, but I correlate it this morning with a gymnast. I'm always fascinated with gymnasts. As an actress, I'm a performer, and whether it's lights up and showtime on the stage or whether it's in front of a camera and they say action, there's this level of performance that I have to deliver. And whether, it's, some days you're really sad and you suddenly have to be happy, or some days you're happy and you have to cry, and you have to cry on cue. It's like boom, when everybody's ready. It's especially in film, and it's that. So I relate to these athletes who are under such pressure to perform at that moment, and I was thinking about the athletes that get on the balance beam, and they're doing these beautiful works on the balance beam, and you can see that they're in tune and that they're mindful, they are in their groove, and in this, we correlate this with God, right? In the groove, when we're talking about spiritually with God, we're on this balance beam, and the gymnast is doing such a wonderful job, and then she falls off. And that's what I feel I do, I know I do. I'm on this balance beam, and I'm communicating, and I'm in the Zen, and I'm have a mission, and I'm feeling like, and then I fall off the balance beam. And then you see the look of demoralization on the gymnast's face, and that's certainly how I feel when I fall off the balance beam, which I did. And, I wasn't communicating spirit to spirit anymore. But then she gets back up. And that has been my lesson over the weekend, is that I fell off the balance beam, but I got back up. And that's what happens in humanity. And that's what happens, I think, in Christianity. People are like, oh, you're a Christian and you behaved that way. But in nowhere in the Bible, whether it's Old Testament or New Testament, are any of the prophets of Jesus and of God, prophets of God, and then disciples of Jesus, none of them were perfect, because we're human. And I think the grace that we have to give each other as Christians is not go, you're a Christian and you did this, to say, okay, they're a Christian, but they fell off the balance beam for a little while because they're human. And it's God who gets us back up there. And in a way, if we get back into the mindfulness of God and communicating with God, what God placed upon my heart was that, and then what this talks about in Psalms today too is asking for forgiveness. Okay, God, I'm sorry I did this. I wish I hadn't have fallen off the balance beam and not communicated spirit to spirit. And so I acknowledge it. And then God put upon my heart, it's like, okay, I'm with you. And let's get back up. And there were 3 P's that came to my mind. One was, God is, I am the power. So it's like God is the power. And when I fall off that balance beam is when I want to rely on my own power. So it's like God is the power. And there were 3 P's. Let me go find what they were. God is the purpose. So whatever it is that God is placing upon my heart, it is his purpose. But just because I'm human, I'm going to fall off that balance beam. And as long as I can recognize it, try to be better, get back up on the balance beam, my purpose will continue to be perpetuated. And the other 3rd P, so it's power, purpose, and God said, I am your protection against all that's out there that when we feel isolated or alone or woeful or sorrowful or remorseful, God says, get back up on the balance beam. I am your power. Remember, you accomplish these things with me. Moses did everything. God did everything through Moses, and God was in Jesus, and Jesus was God. And, it's like we can't do anything without staying in that mindset, but we will fall off the balance beam. But it's like, will we get back up and pursue the perpetuating purpose? There go the alliterations of P's for our lives. And that got me through the weekend where I was just like, okay, all right, yes. And when I fell back into doubt of worthiness and things of that nature, God just would speak back to me and say, I'm gonna surround you. I'm your protection. I am your power, and you are living out, my purpose. And we all live out God's purpose. I'm not in any special arena here. As we talked about, the lovely woman at Brahms, if you go 2 back, spirit to spirit, not ego to ego, who came out to help me, that's the purpose in us. That's the God in us. We all can touch each other's lives in the simplest of ways, And then I read today, remember I have this wonderful NIV Red Square Bible in a year, NIV, it's called Bible in 1 year. And you can journal on the sides. No, I'm not being paid to say that. And today's March 11th. And looky what was in the Psalm today of David. David was extraordinary. And David was certainly quite human and fell off the balance beam many times, right? Okay, so Psalm 32:5 right now I'm going to read to you. So this is what I was talking about. The first thing I have to do is to say, okay, I fell off the balance beam, and admit to God that okay, God, I'm sorry, I fell off the balance beam. Then, so here's what verse 5 says. Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord. Can you believe this is in the Bible today after this? What happened to me over the weekend? And I have this in my mind to talk to you. And you forgave the guilt of my sin. So that's Psalm 32, verse 5. Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. Wow. Right? Isn't that amazing? And then if we go to 7, and that doesn't mean, we might not get that from other people where we would like it. They may not give it to us, but God will. And in the end, that's our true purpose, and that's our mission is through God. And God will heal those things as well, and oftentimes when we cannot. In the verse 7, this is, of course, the Psalms of David. You are my hiding place. You will protect me from trouble, and surround me with songs of deliverance. So that's like the 3 P's that God gave me over the weekend. And here he goes. He's talking about I will forgive, but now he's saying I will protect. So what's David saying here? Saying, okay, I'm asking for forgiveness, and you forgave me, and now you will protect me. You are my hiding place. So when we feel like our nerves are on the edge and there's not a safe place, we are safe with God. God, being in prayer and mindfulness, deep breaths. And that's why I talk about God's psychology. I don't think just learning things from these psychologists online is enough. We have to bring in the power and the purpose and the protection of God. You are my hiding place, God. You will protect me from trouble and surround me with songs of deliverance. Okay, isn't that fabulous? And then in closing here in 8, verse 8, 32:8, Psalm, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. So that's the purpose, the P in my purpose. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. I will counsel you. So, it's like a coach for the gymnast who fell off the balance beam. The coach is like, get right back up. I'm going to help you. I'm going to show you where your foot was placed the wrong way. I'm going to show you where, your hands weren't high enough in the air. And so God is going to instruct us and teach us in the way we should go, and will counsel us with his loving eye. But guess what? He can't do that if we forget, if we give up. And he can't do that if we say, I'm not worthy, I'm not doing it, which Moses tried to do with God too, right? It's like, why me? I don't want to go. I don't know how to speak, which is pretty defiant to God. And God's like, wait, I chose you. Yeah, but I don't think I can do it, God. If we give up, if we fall into woe, or that we're not worthy, then we can't be instructed. We can't get back up and learn. That's the thing that's the hardest about life, are these lessons that we have to learn, but we cannot learn them unless we fail. And what my biggest lesson in life has been, but when I fail and I get back up and I continue to press on to learn and suck it up and take a deep breath and just pull myself up by my bootstraps and reach up for the hand of God, then I have a higher level of enlightenment than I had before. And I have a higher purpose, and I'm more close to God because I've had to struggle and I got back up. Giving up, being convinced we're not worthy, being convinced we're not capable, or falling into a well of woe, that only leads to more woe. But to get back up, as hard as it can be, to suck it up and say, boy, all right, like David is saying here, I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I confessed it. And you forgave the guilt of my sin. And of course, that's what Easter is all about, and how Jesus died on the cross to forgive us of our sins. And then we can get back up on that balance beam. So, my friends, that is what I learned over the weekend. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on camera later in the week. Okay, have a blessed day.